Yes, you didn't read it wrong, Marvel has animated films. Did you think only DC made these films? Let's talk a little about them. So guys, how are you? I hope you're doing well. I'm the Monio, the interdimensional demon who talks the most about Marvel animations on YouTube, and you're on my channel. And before we start guys, I know that Marvel has films like Spider-Verse, which is incredible, but in this video I'm going to talk about 2D films, which were released for home video, along the lines of DC's animated films, okay? In 5th place, we have Iron Man Rise of Technovore. This film takes place after the events of Iron Man 1 and 2 of the MCU, and shows Tony facing an enemy using organic techno armor, who turns out to be extremely powerful and with ambiguous motivations, and it is up to Tony to discover who this villain is, to stop to attack and hurt more people. Demonio, this film takes place in the MCU universe, so will I see Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man in an animated version? No! In fact, although this film considers the MCU, it is not canon, which would not be a problem, but the version of Tony Stark in this animation is completely different from the MCU version. In fact, the entire film is very different from what you would expect from an MCU film, where Tony is portrayed as a mature, grounded man with a more Eastern philosophy of life. The entire clash between Iron Man and the villain is quite philosophical and symbolic, with analogies about life and existence, in a style that we usually see in Ghost in the Shell, but less well executed in my opinion. I think the best definition I can give for it is something different from what you'll see in the MCU and different from what you'll see in most comics. Maybe it's too much of a Japanese film for an American character, in which the script tries to find philosophical and emotional justifications for almost all of the characters' decisions, which results in a very strange outcome, but that's not necessarily bad, it's just different. Speaking this way, it seems like the film is boring and tedious, but it's not. The film has good battle scenes, and good action scenes in general, very cool battles, with the participation of very cool characters like War Machine, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Punisher, and the quality of the animation in this film is absurd. Seriously, it's one of the best made on this list, with a visual style very close to anime, and really cool character designs. If you like the character Iron Man and want to see something different with the character, this film is for you. In 4th place we have Ultimate Avengers the movie. As the name suggests, this is the Avengers film based on the Ultimate Universe of comics, which is the universe in which Miles Morales emerged. This film shows a little about the origin of each Avenger and how they became a group, but the highlight of the film is Captain America. All of the characters' drama is well worked out here, and he has a much more complete and complex character arc than in the MCU films. For example, in this film a dark side of the Captain America, showing that he is tormented by serious war trauma, and has nightmares about the horrible deaths of his comrades in the war, and this is something that has never been addressed in the MCU, and shows the courage of the animation scriptwriters for touching on such heavy and mature themes. The film's plot is about the Avengers having to unite to prevent an alien invasion, and these aliens are related to what happened in World War II, and to some of Captain America's traumas. The film has very fluid and well-made animation, it has great action scenes, and the visual style emulates the look of the comics, and in my opinion, it's simply beautiful. It's different from the styles we see in anime, but it also differs a lot from the more casual American animation styles, and it is perfect in its proposal. This is the only film on this list that has a sequel, and it is also very good. In the second film Black Panther is introduced into the story and most of the battle takes place in Wakanda, with an emotionally impactful ending, both for Black Panther and Captain America. And since we're talking about Captain America, if you're one of those who always rooted for him and Black Widow, I think you'll enjoy their outcome. If you're missing an Avengers movie and want to see a really cool animation that has all the essence of the group, this movie is for you, and if you like the first one, you'll definitely like the second one. In 3rd place, we have Avengers Confidential Black Widow and Punisher. And even though the title of the film suggests that it is about the Avengers, it is a film focused on the Punisher, and mainly on Black Widow, and developing the character much more than in the MCU, since here we have a Black Widow that is much more provocative than that of the MCU, which contrasts greatly with Frank Castle's rigid and uncompromising personality. The film is about a mission in which the Punisher needs to team up with Black Widow, since his interests align, I will avoid saying more to avoid spoilers. Here we have another film in the visual style of anime, produced by Japanese studios, and of all the films on this list, I believe this is the one with the best visual quality overall, with fluid and beautiful animation, and a visual style extremely well done, rich in details, with vibrant colors and strong contrasts. And what we see on the screen is spectacular. Seriously guys, you can easily pause the film and use that frame you paused as wallpaper. The film has excellent action scenes, with very well choreographed fights with the two protagonists, and also with the Avengers, who appear briefly. The film has an interesting plot, and for me the only weak point is the villain's motivation, which is quite silly in my opinion, which results in an unmemorable ending, but it's still a great film for those who like Marvel, and want to see good fights with excellent animation. In second place we have Doctor Strange the Sorcerer Supreme. This film is basically the first Doctor Strange film in the MCU, but much better, and this is the best definition I can give. Imagine the first Doctor Strange film in the MCU, only without those ridiculous scenes of the characters punching each other on the spiritual plane, with much better and deeper character development for Steven, in which we can see a much more gradual transition from a skeptical and arrogant man, until he becomes the Supreme Sorcerer. The plot of this film is also better done and makes more sense than the live-action one, and the ending of the film is much cooler too, especially in the final battle against Dormammu, which was much cooler here. The animation in this film is very interesting. It doesn't completely emulate the aesthetics of the comics, like Ultimate Avengers does, but it's a beautiful and competent visual style, which suits Doctor Strange a lot. The film doesn't have many battles, as it is more focused on the protagonist's drama, but the battles we have in the film are quite cool and very creative. If you really like Doctor Strange, but you think he's never had a movie in the MCU that's worthy of the character, this movie is for you. Firstly, we have the Invincible Iron Man. Yes, another Iron Man film, but this one is special, as it shows one of the best arcs involving Tony Stark. In the plot, Stark Industries is trying to unearth an ancient Chinese city that is buried, but their mission is attacked by a group armed, previously unknown, and Rhodes, Tony's best friend, is kidnapped, which causes Tony himself to travel to China to try to rescue his friend. The look of this film looks a lot like the Doctor Strange film. They were made at the same time, which is a style that I really like. I even wish more current animations followed this aesthetic, but there is a negative point, which is the use of CGI in the armor, because at the time this film was made, the CGI that emulates 2D animation was not that advanced, so all the scenes with Tony inside the armor are in computer graphics, which is not bad, but it can't disguise very well the fact that there is something 3D standing out among other 2D elements on the screen, but that doesn't ruin the film experience. One interesting thing about this film is that Howard Stark, Tony's father, is still alive and running the company, and father and son have a very troubled relationship here, one blaming the other for the death of Tony's mother and for emotional gaps that they never had a father-son relationship, and their relationship is very well explored, with the way they deal with the company in terms of whether or not to sell weapons, and other issues, a great metaphor for the way the two characters see the world. This results in one of Tony Stark's best emotional arcs, and this isn't even the main plot, as the story is about the magical rings that are being gathered by supernatural entities to revive the Mandarin. Yes, we have a film with Tony facing his most iconic villain. The film does a good job of antagonizing the mystical against the technological, with a surprising ending full of twists and turns. It is really very well done. And don't get me wrong, I like the first two Iron Man films in the MCU, mainly because of Downey Jr.'s charisma, but in terms of character development, I think we have the definitive Iron Man film to date, and if you are a fan of the character, I highly recommend it. But what about you? Did you already know these films? Have you watched any of them? Leave it in the comments, and if you like the video, subscribe to follow the next content. Until next time my people, demonic hugs.